What is ADOT and how does it impact YAC in fantasy football? Imagine you're watching a game and wondering why some players rack up yards after catching the ball while others don't. Well, a big part of that puzzle is something called average depth of target, or ADOT. It's a number that shows how far downfield a player is usually targeted when a pass is thrown their way. To find ADOT, you take the total air yards, the distance the ball travels in the air, and divide it by the number of targets that player gets. So, if a receiver has caught 10 passes for a total of 100 yards in the air, their ADOT is 10 yards. Now, why does this matter for fantasy football? Because ADOT influences how much yards after catch, or YAC, a player can generate. YAC is the yards a player gains after catching the ball. Players with low ADOTs, say around 3 to 6 yards, are often targeted on short passes like screens or quick outs. These passes give them plenty of room to run and pick up extra yards after catching the ball. Think of a possession receiver catching a quick pass near the line of scrimmage and then sprinting downfield for more yards. These players tend to rack up YAC because they're catching the ball close enough to the line of scrimmage to make a move. On the flip side, players with high ADOTs, like 10 yards or more, are usually targeted on longer, deeper passes. These passes are thrown farther downfield, often in the secondary, which means they catch the ball in stride or near defenders. This reduces their chances to gain many yards after catching because they're already close to the end zone or the sideline. But these players can make up for it with big plays and touchdowns, which can be huge for fantasy points. Understanding ADOT helps fantasy managers see what kind of role a player has. If a receiver has a low ADOT and catches a lot of passes, they're likely to gain yards after the catch and be reliable in PPR leagues. If a player has a high ADOT, they might not get many YAC yards but could score big with deep catches. Combining ADOT with YAC gives a clearer picture of how a player scores points. For example, a receiver with a low ADOT and high target volume is great for steady points through receptions and YAC. Meanwhile, a high ADOT player might be more boom or bust but with the potential for huge plays. In short, ADOT shows how far downfield a player is targeted and shapes their potential for YAC. It helps you figure out if a player is more of a possession receiver who gains yards after the catch or a deep threat who scores with big plays. When you look at both ADOT and YAC, you get a better idea of a player's overall fantasy value and how they fit into your lineup.